Italy versus Albania. You know, this is an Italian national team that are gonna look to defend their European title. They are the defending European championship. They entered this game as the champions, and I think it's important for them to enter this game with that sort of swagger that they are, because they're gonna need that kind of false sense of confidence, because there's only like six or seven guys on the squad from that team that won a European championship. There's been a huge turnover, but they still need that, in my opinion, they still need to walk in with that confidence. We are the Italian national team. We are the last European championship. Walk in with that sort of swagger in this tournament, with that sort of belief. Because the pure ability within this team is not as good as that team that won the European championship. I think they're a little bit useful. I think defensively they've suffered a few injuries. Still think they're still strong. Their back line with Di Marco, I forgot the name of the Napoli fullback. If someone can, I'll figure it out later. But Azzurri and trying to figure out Di Lorenzo. Yeah, that's what I was saying. Di Lorenzo and Di Marco. They still defensively, they shouldn't be disrespected despite the injuries that they've suffered. But I think the goal scoring, now Scamacca, he's been pretty good over the past few months, which is important because I think he will be the one leading the line. I think Ortegui is just not at that level, not quite yet. So I do think it's going to be Scamacca, and then Chiesa going to be next to him on one side, which, he's going to need to replicate the form of the previous European Championship if they want to move on, if they want to, defend their title, which is really, really going to be difficult for them. Luciano Spalletti, obviously, he came in after the first two qualifiers. Roberto Mancini resigned after the first two games. He ended up getting replaced by Luciano Spalletti, who has came in and he's done a pretty good job. He guided Italy through the European qualifiers, through automatic promotion. So it's clear, like, Roberto Mancini, he has that, Luciano Spalletti, he's been a valuable piece in this puzzle. The style of play he plays is very good and very fun to watch. They're not going to be afraid of teams. They're going to be willing to go at it, and again, for Italy, it just really comes down to them coming in with swagger. I think Jorginho, he's going to be important in dictating play. He's going to have to be amazing in this tournament. He needs to have needs to be composed on the ball, be that composer, dictate play for Italy. He's going to be very important. Now, again, I don't know if they have what it takes to win it all. But they will be playing an Albanian national team who had a pretty good run on qualifying for the European Championship. Not only did they qualify, but they qualified pretty comfortably in winning their group over Czech Republic. Yes, it was on goal differential, but they won the group, which is a very impressive feat for Albania. And it's a team that has, under Silvino, who's actually came in and he's been very brilliant for Albania. They play some good football. They have ability. I like. They have a lot of players that play in Serie A, which is is gonna help a lot. They got Aslani. Aslani plays at Inter Milan. They're gonna be their creative player, their central midfielder. He's gonna provide a lot of the creativity for Albania. Obviously, the Chelsea boy, Armando Broja, his pace can be important, especially going up against an Italy backline that's been a little bit riddled with injuries. He's going to have to take advantage of any sort of makeshift center back pairing that they might potentially go with. I think his pace going in behind is going to be very, very, very valuable for Albania. They're going to have to defend with concentration, with focus. They can't have lapse, because in these sort of tournaments, one lapse in concentration defensively, then you're letting in a guy like Skamaka in behind, or Chiesa in behind, and you don't want that happening. I think for Albania, I do think they have a chance to, threaten these teams in this group. I don't think they're going to be just some easy pushover at this European Championship. I think they're going to give their best. They're going to give their all in all 3 games, and I think they will be a challenge. And I definitely think they'll be able to nick a point here and there, and to do it against Italy in their opening game. I don't know. By the way, there is a sense of pressure a little bit on this Italian national team because of the fact that they have not played at the last World Cup, and there will be a little bit of expectations, just a little bit. But again, people understand that this is a new team, and that but it's still important for them to get off to, Italy are going to have to come in and win this game because they play Spain and Croatia. So that's going to, it's going to be very, very crucial. And the Albanian manager, Silvino, he's really playing to that. He came out and said this opener is decisive for Italy, not for Albania, taking off the pressure off of his own players. He said, we're delighted to be here. We've been on a difficult journey in terms of our qualification, and it hasn't been easy, but we got here. It's a huge source of pride to be here. We're in a tough group and at a tough tournament. We're here to compete, though. We'll scrape for every point. Luciano Spalletti is an incredible coach with incredible players. I'm not listening to talk about Italy's form in friendly. It's Italy. They're always competitive. And yes, they are. They're always competitive in these international tournaments. The problem is, though, the form is a bad sign entering these European Championship. I kind of chose to ignore the form of Scotland entering the European Championship because of what they were able to do earlier in the Euro qualifiers. And, again, that turned out to bite them. And, Italy, they've been a little, they narrowly scraped past 2-1 against a Venezuela team that was really a, very even game, which is not a good performance because Venezuela's not the strong. I mean, they're not a bad team, but they're not the strongest team. They took on Ecuador. They were able to win that game 2-0. I think they were better. They had that rough game against Turkey where it finished in 0-0. And then they were, I think the worst of the worst was when they played, I believe that they played, no, it's when they played Ukraine on the last European qualifiers. I thought they were, I thought they really were really lucky in that game. And I think they were really fortunate of a call not to go in their area. And again, it was very disappointing to see that because I thought the urgency would be at an extreme heightened level because of the fact of how they missed the last World Cup and they didn't want to make sure that happened again. And I thought that the fact that they allowed, the referee to even be in a position for them having to save them, in a sense, I thought it was really disappointing to see as someone who, likes rooting for this Italian national team. But it's a big unknown with them. It really is. It's a huge unknown with them. They can come out and they could play marvelously. 1-2, 3-0 will be like, okay, this is Italian team football. But in terms of talented players in the squad, I think out of all the big nations, the Netherlands, the Englands, the Portugals, the France, the Germanys, the Spains, I think their talent, just purely talent levels, is not to that level. Not right now. Not this. The starting 11, you have a few players that are very, very good in a Jorginho and the DiMarco. But then other than that, you got some players that were brilliant beforehand, but they have not returned to that. Like Di Lorenzo, the year the Napoli won Serie A, phenomenal player. But this year, he's been woeful at times. Chiesa, he hasn't been the same since the previous European Championship. You know, Barella, he's still a brilliant player, but he's not gonna be really that much of a factor earlier in the tournament because of the injury that he faced. That's a massive hit to them. You know, that number 9 position, where are you gonna get that goals? Scamacca, is he really capable of leading the line for this Italian national team at this European Championship? Again, though, they can really prove us wrong tomorrow. They can come out with a team performance and they just have a blind belief that they are Italy and that, you know, they still play with that swagger of previous Italian teams, that confidence. Then I do think, you know, we can see, you know, them make a real showing for themselves and really announcing themselves on the world stage.